Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor, Aaron. Thank you so much for being here today and being part of this Indiana Hoosiers community on here. And what a glorious day to be an Indiana Hoosiers fan it is. Who would ever think that the Indiana football team would make the tournament in 2024 and the basketball team would not? Who would ever have thought that? And look, I got to share this with you right now because this is live TV and all kinds of stuff happens. This is why I'm late coming on here. But the shelf behind me right before I'm ready to come on, this shelf right here just like fell right to the ground. So part of that busted off of there. And man, you just never know when that thing is secured up there, but you know, I got a lot of stuff sitting on it, and it's getting heavy. But thank you so much for joining me. The Hoosiers are in. Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers are in the college football playoff. And if you're like me, it was like there was a part of my mind when I was watching that, when they were revealing the teams and they got down to 2. I was thinking, I don't know, maybe it's just the years of being an Indiana Hoosiers football fan. But something was just telling me, I'm like, they're not going to get in. They're just going to put them out and put Alabama in. And what did we see? Alabama is not in, and the Indiana Hoosiers are in. So who would have predicted that? Nobody. Let me get this off of here. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Aaron, your residential anchor. This is Indiana Sports Connection. We're going to be talking about the college football playoff. Indiana has the matchup against Notre Dame. It is December 20th, 8 p.m. on ABC, and it's going to be like a state title game, really, being played at Notre Dame between the two best college teams in Indiana. Only 2 states got multiple teams in, and it's Indiana and Texas. So I'm just sitting here saying it. Indiana, is it a football state? I mean, how many years could we get 2 teams into this thing? So, and SMU is the other team in Texas that's in. And that was a big question mark. And we're going to pull up the playoffs right here. And we'll pull this up. But it's like there were some big question marks in this entire thing. And I'll tell you, when they were revealing every part of this, parts of it were baffling my mind. The conference championship games do not make sense. They just do not make sense at all. It does not really make sense to put Arizona State and Boise State where they both get buys, and other teams that are far better than those teams, in my opinion, just don't get buys. I mean, you would think, I don't know. I think they will sort that out, and they're going to add teams to this. This is going to go to 16 teams. I don't know if it goes to 14 before and then goes to 16, but this is like all I could have wanted, because I'll tell you, Georgia or Tennessee, which last week it was kind of looking like, and I made an episode saying like most people thought Indiana was going to move somewhere, and I'm glad they did, because I did not really want to play Georgia or Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't scare me so much, but Georgia, I still think they are Georgia and Ohio State. I don't know why, but in my mind, those teams are to have the most top-notch talent and would be the hardest to play against. Notre Dame, we'll have a chance against Notre Dame. We will have a chance against Notre Dame. Let's talk just preliminarily about they play, and I'm one of those guys, like, I don't know what they call them, but yeah, Notre Dame is always way overrated. And I think that's part of the reason why I do root for them after I watch the Indiana games. But I am one of those guys that always rooted for Indiana, watched Indiana, but also rooted for Notre Dame. But this game, I think Indiana goes in there and they put a shellacking on Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is not going to be friendly towards Indiana. And I'm going to tell you, the place I used to live in, New Jersey, that's where there's more Notre Dame fans than anywhere in the world. Everybody in New Jersey used to always say to me, why are you not a Notre Dame fan? And I was like, yeah, because I don't know anybody that went to Notre Dame, okay? My wife is from South Bend and doesn't know anybody that went to Notre Dame. Her dad is a huge Notre Dame fan. I don't think he knows anybody that went to Notre Dame. Tell me if you know somebody that is super rich that went to Notre Dame, because, and you know what? You're right. Like, Notre Dame gets all of like the free lunches they could possibly get. If there's one team that is allowed to like pick their own teams to play, doesn't play a championship game, it's Notre Dame. They're always there, and they're there this year. The game that I really look back to is like the Texas A&M game. That was so early in the season, and Notre Dame pulled that game out, and it's that is what that game to me most signifies, like what it's going to be like Notre Dame playing Indiana, because Notre Dame played a lot of weak teams this year. They shellacked Purdue. I think they beat Purdue 66-7. We beat them 66-0. So that means nothing in my own brain. I really can't compute that because Purdue is so awful. But we're going to have a chance. We're going to have a chance. I think this is going to be a really entertaining game to watch. I think it's great for the state of Indiana that we're going to play. And this could be a snow game. I mean, this is on Winter's Eve. There is, I mean, if you know South Bend people, or you know people in South Bend, they get over 100 inches of snow a year. There could definitely be, I mean, I've been over there Christmas time at different times, and the snow just blows in. That would be absolutely fantastic. And I think that benefits Indiana. I think it's Indiana's running game. And I know I've said this in a lot of games, but Indiana's running game against their physical defense, to me, that's the matchup. Like, we have to be able to run the ball on them. I got to go and then like look more at their personnel up front. I don't know what type of personnel, if they have personnel like Ohio State, but I'll tell you this, playing at Notre Dame is nothing like playing at Ohio State. I've only been to 2 games at Notre Dame, and they were both before it was renovated. But I mean, I was at the stadium for my wedding. The director of security, thank you very much, took us in there. So yeah, IU has the toughest path. I think here's what happened. I think this is why they matched Notre Dame and Indiana up. I think they both kind of felt like these two teams had a little bit more to prove, and I think that's why they matched them up against each other, because then one team, Notre Dame or Indiana, is guaranteed to be eliminated before the next round. That's kind of like what my feeling was when I saw the playoff come out. I'm like, okay, this is why they set this up this way. Although I could have seen Penn State maybe getting put into that position. They're another team that I think maybe could have been on that cusp, didn't play any like really hard teams, but just lost to Ohio State. But the fact of the matter is we're in. We got a game to look forward to. We get an extra game, not just a bowl game. The school, I don't know how much money the school makes, millions off of this. It is just fantastic for the university. And they don't respect IU. Notre Dame has not a great history, and I have really rooted for Notre Dame in a lot of these big matchups that they've had over the years. I mean, if you go back to 2012, was that the first 2-team playoff in 2012? But when Notre Dame played Alabama back then, they got annihilated. I remember them playing a couple times with Ian Book, and just they were not like Notre Dame did not look close to the caliber of teams of like the Alabama. Now this was like some years ago, but so this is why I think this is like a better matchup for Indiana not playing Georgia. Georgia scares me big time, and it's just like New Life. Who did you guys beat? We may have lost to a MAC team. It was horrible, but well, we beat some teams. We beat Michigan State. We lost to Ohio State, but I don't really care about that. You know, the guy on Northern Illinois that beat Notre Dame in that game, he's from Lewis High School in Fort Wayne. So I was happy to see that guy. And he played like running back for Northern Illinois. And I'm sure Notre Dame fans love hearing the stories about them. But I mean, Notre Dame should have been undefeated. Really, you think about it, Notre Dame, if they beat Northern Illinois, there's probably no way that they're not ranked 1, 2, or 3 in this. But they have the thing where they would never be able to get a bye because they're not in a conference, so they'd always be at like number 5. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. But I got a clip here of Cignetti already came out and answered questions about Notre Dame, and he gave some real good answers about they were doing some preparation for some of the teams this week. Make sure I get the right clip here.
I'll be honest, saw them on tape against Purdue. We're getting ready for Purdue. Obviously a very good football team. They've won 10 in a row. Coach Freeman's done a tremendous football team. They've won 10 in a row. Coach Freeman's done a tremendous job with that football team. I've looked at their stats, haven't had a chance to really watch them today with all the media stuff going on. But you know, I saw enough of them against Purdue to know that they're an excellent football team, and when you look at their scores, they haven't played in very many close games. So I'm sure they'll be quite the challenge. But we're looking forward to it. We're a good football team. I'm confident in our football team. I think that we will apply the lessons learned at Ohio State when we had to go on the road in a hostile environment against a good football team, and apply those up at Notre Dame, and got to have a great week of prep. Questions?
Zach on your left and Niz.
I guess you answered there a little bit, but just how much did you allow yourself, if at all, really, to look ahead to the idea of teams you might face, things you might be prepared for, maybe even talking with your team about things like...
Yeah, this was the question right here I thought was a great answer to. And he talks about who they were preparing for this week.
The Ohio State atmosphere and learning from that, because you knew you might have to go on the road to a similar sort of road environment. Just without knowing where you were going, how far ahead do you let yourself look?
Well, I think we addressed the Ohio State issues with the team Monday after the game. And then in terms of, you know, last week we did a Monday routine, which is kind of a walkthrough, 20-minute walkthrough on offense, 5-minute on punt, about 10 minutes of individual stretch, stride 660s. That's our Monday routine, right? We review the Purdue game, and we preview the next opponent. We didn't know who the next opponent would be. We previewed Georgia for 15 minutes and worked against them in a 20-minute walkthrough, just some base first and 10, a P10 defenses or plays that they, you know, top 3 runs, top 3 passes. The next day, which was a Tuesday practice, off week Tuesday, about an hour and 10-minute practice, we worked Ohio State, corrections, base looks, same thing. Wednesday, which is similar practice to Tuesday, we did work Notre Dame P10 first and 10. You know, Tuesday's punt return, Wednesday's kickoff return, PAT field. And then, so those practices occurred on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but they were Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday type practices.
All right. I mean, Cignetti, I just want to give a hand to Cignetti. I mean, he puts on a press conference. I mean, he's saying the times of all the things they did, how long the practice was, an hour and 10 minutes, who they prepared for, what they did that day. So they had a plan going into this week that they're going to prepare for Georgia. They were going to prepare for Notre Dame. They're going to prepare for Ohio State. I mean, this is a great plan. I mean, it really shows this guy never sleeps. I mean, this guy, he's just always trying to get better. I mean, that's why we're in this playoff. And finally, and let the infighting begin. I see some of it on here. It's like, yeah, Notre Dame is prestigious. Indiana's prestigious in basketball. I know a ton of people that are Notre Dame football fans and Indiana basketball fans. So that's really interesting that it's like some people just root for Notre Dame football and Indiana basketball. I've always rooted for Indiana football first, but then I've always turned on the Notre Dame games. Are always on TV, so I never ever had anything against Notre Dame. But it is what it is. I think this is a great matchup for the state of Indiana. I think this is going to really be a great 2 weeks of lead up coverage. I mean, that's the other thing. That's one of the reasons why, you want to be in the college football playoff. That's why this is huge for Indiana football. For us, we have 2 weeks now where almost like leading up to the Super Bowl, where there are only 12 teams in college football that anybody's going to be talking about, and we're going to be one of them. And that is what brings a lot of eyeballs to what you're doing, recruiting, everything like that, because this is a time where, people are home for Christmas. Everybody's going to be watching these games, and we're going to be a part of it. And to do that in this very first year of this, and I'm just going to say, if a year ago you would have made a bet with somebody that there's going to be a 12-team playoff and Indiana's going to be in it and Alabama is not, who would have ever taken that bet? I'll tell you, I just hate Alabama so much. So the glory that they're just not in it is fantastic. So it's going to be a great game. I'm going to get off of here. I see a lot of people. It's going to be a great week of people fighting back and forth about useless. It's like a total snowball. I think IU wins. Leonard just isn't it. I'm with you, Roger. I got to see more of Leonard. I'm going to watch more of their games. There are a few games I did not watch of Notre Dame's this year, but he has some good games. He has some bad games. He can be unpredictable a little bit, but I think we just have a really good matchup. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. Until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.